Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about the drama that just won't stop between Meghan Markle's father, and I want to say, and her, but it's mainly one-sided because Meghan and Harry have been paying him dust for a really long time, but he just won't get the hint. So, of course, I've got one of my favorite YouTube lawyers with me, Stephanie. How are you, Stephanie?
Hi, Grace. How are you? I'm good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. I'm good too, thank you. So Stephanie runs a YouTube channel called Wine and Chill, where she cracks open some wine and she talks about legal issues in the entertainment world. She's so good, you guys. You know, she's actually going to be here again tomorrow to talk about the labor rights of influencer children and reality TV children as well. So same time tomorrow, actually. So if you're around, please tune in because it's going to be amazing. So you guys' comments are already pouring in about Thomas Markle. I'm seeing Ashley. She's like, what an a-hole. Christina says, I swear a parent will hate you all your life until you can give them something. And if you don't, you're the ungrateful one. So Stephanie, when you were practicing as an entertainment attorney, did you have any kind of stories like this or like at all in the legal field in general of parents trying to kind of exploit their own children for fame and money?
So, not personally. So, I work in tech now. For those of you that don't know, I used to work in entertainment. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see all of you. Not personally. However, a few of my friends have had these types of cases, which it's always interesting. What we're going to talk about tomorrow in terms of parents exploiting their children. The grandparents' rights that we're going to talk about today are interesting because usually what we see is two camps of grandparents, those with good intentions and those like Mr. Markle, who just like to cause commotion. So we're gonna get into if he has any rights, which he's an odd person, to put it kindly, and to put it honestly, is seemingly an asshole. So
Well, where is it coming from? Like, I don't understand because from what I heard, he was really supporting Meghan a lot, right? Like, they were really close. She would spend months at a time at his house or even a year. He helped put her through private school and everything. So, how does someone go from that to this?
yeah, I'm not sure how their relationship soured, to be honest. It does seem that I think in my reading, like a little bit of background research on him, I think he is formerly a producer. So he also worked in entertainment as well, which is very interesting. I'm not there are certain parents, Jamie Spears is a good example of this, that become like
Yeah.
very jealous and entitled to their children, or they feel like,
Mhm.
oh, I've done all these things for you, like this is mine, like you owe me something. It
Yeah.
could be that. At this point, it's just very strange. Like these are two adults. He's well into his old age.
Yes.
Really, like I don't even understand like the consternation at all the time. Like I don't get it.
Well, me neither. You know, recently he went on Good Morning Britain, and I'm going to pull that photo back up of him. And
Mhm.
he said, and I quote, I don't want to include my grandchildren in this situation. I want to see my grandchildren with friendly parents and friendship all around. I don't want hostile parents when seeing my grandkids, so I'll wait. And he's referring to when he talks about I'll wait, he's waiting to file that lawsuit. Like it's all just so presumptuous that, you know, he's setting the tone for what kind of atmosphere he has when he sees his grandchildren, which, you know, we don't even know if it's possible,
It's
you
not.
know?
Spoiler alert there before we get into it. I
Right.
think he just wants attention. He seems very attention seeking.
It really does seem to be that way. And I should have had the photo, but like the whole reason, well, one of the major reasons why they fell out was because leading up to the wedding, what did he do? Well, the sister Samantha, the half sister,
Mhm.
she allegedly set him up with a photographer, a paparazzi, to have a photo of him like reading a book about the history of the royal family. And then, you know, that's when things kind of took a nosedive. He kind of faked a heart attack, I believe it was, to get out of going to the wedding because he was so embarrassed. Like these are things that he admitted himself, like in regards to why their relationship is the way that it is, you know? So
Very
right now,
unfortunate.
it's crazy. It's really wild. Like he doesn't even live in California where Meghan and Harry are. He lives in Mexico. And then he also says people have suggested in California I could sue to see my grandkids, but I think if I did that, I'd be doing the same thing that Meghan and Harry are doing. So like he's always trying to get a dig in. So first of all, let's back it up. Can he sue?
So basically, so the US, we have our federal laws and we have our state laws, which the US is very interesting in that manner. Other countries don't really run that way. The state laws, certain states, have different laws. So in California specifically, you can always pay the filing fee. I always tell people, you can always pay the filing fee. Whether or not you're wasting your money is a different thing. He can waste his money and pay the filing fee. He has no rights. So in California, their standard is if there is a pre-existing relationship, and say the parents divorce or a parent dies or something like that, then they can ask for visitation. Well, obviously,
Yes.
there's no relationship with his grandchildren, so there's nothing there. Different states have different standards. Alabama is interesting. If the parents are divorced, then you're more likely as a grandparent to get visitation, which I think is interesting. If the parents are
Mhm.
unmarried, certain states that are quote unquote more conservative, if the parents are unmarried, then grandparents are more likely to get visitation. California is very much pro-parent, so there's not a chance that he's going to get any visitation.
Really? Not a single
Mhm.
chance.
No. So he can waste his filing fee. And to be honest, I think he knows that. He just like wants to be annoying. I don't even I would guess that he doesn't even actually care about those kids. He just like wants to go on like whatever British tabloid and just talk.
And it's quite sad because a lot of these tabloids are actually getting like heat. They're feeling the heat from their viewers who were like falling for all of this kind of like propaganda against Meghan
Mhm.
and Harry and allowing Thomas to have a platform. Now they're saying, listen, this guy's crazy. Like, why do you keep giving
Yeah.
him a voice at this point? It's weird the way he's stalking his own daughter. We have a long comment from Ramster. I didn't get a chance to read it, so I'm going to put it up here so I can read it. How difficult is it for the sexes to organize a low key lunch and introduce him to his grandchildren? Have some kids' entertainment, and have a photograph session, and maybe again in 6 months. I feel like that's the problem is that they don't want these
They
things
don't
out
want him
in the
around
public.
their kids.
Yeah.
I think they
You know,
just don't want him around their children, which, to be honest, I'm the oldest of 7. So, not speaking from a parent's angle because I'm not a parent, but I could understand like why a parent is like, no, this is a toxic person. Like, I just don't want my kids around them. Like, I don't care.
exactly. And now moving forward, what can happen? Like if he continues to harass them through the television, do you think that there is kind of grounds or some kind of possibility for Meghan and Harry to then go on the offense against him legally?
They could, the only thing that they could possibly do is either like defamation, like, but he's not really defaming them. He's just saying like, hey, I want to hang out with Archie.
Yeah.
Or they could get a restraining order, which he doesn't live close to them. So like there's no purpose of that. I don't
Yeah.
think they would go that route. I think their route is like, we're just gonna ignore him because he's just doing whatever he's doing.
Hmm.
Annoying.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, it is working and it is only making him look, a little obsessed and like a little bit
Yeah.
toxic, as a parent as
Mhm.
well, that he would go down this route. Sarah says, my daughter's grandmother took me to court 3 times and wasted my time and
Mhm.
money trying to get grandparent rights. The judge told her if she does it again, she would have to cover my fees. New Jersey resident.
Yep. That sounds accurate. Because basically what happens is every time someone takes you to court, like either you're representing yourself, which in most cases not really advised, or you're actually
Mhm.
having to pay an attorney to go and fight like what is essentially like a bogus lawsuit or a bogus claim.
Yeah.
So judges will get annoyed, and to deter the person that is filing, they'll tell them like, okay, you can continue to do this, but you're going to pay for the other person's fees as well, which will deter them from like continuing this action.
Hi, just a T, by the way. Nice to see you again. She was here for our earlier stream of Housewives of Potomac. But, here's my question. Why, like, if the grandparent keeps losing this case,
Hmm.
why, are they not already having to pay the fees for the other party, like, each time they lose?
No, so it's up to the judge. So again, it's not grandparents' rights are not technically like a real thing. So like there's custody rights as a parent. If you're someone's parents, you have custodial rights, but grandparents' rights are in terms of like visitation. They don't automatically get custody of anybody's children unless there's no next of kin. It's more so, oh, I would like to see somebody. So
Yeah.
those rights aren't inherent. So judges basically, there's not a lot of precedent to say like, okay, to do this, that means you need to pay the other person's fees. So yes, if you have, unfortunately, a very irritating mother-in-law or mother that you're estranged from that will
Yeah.
continue to do it, a sensible judge by like the second or third time will be like, okay, you can continue this, but you're going to pay for it then, because it's a waste of everyone's time, including the judge's time, which is a waste of taxpayer dollars, to be honest.
Exactly. It honestly feels like a certain level of harassment as well,
Mhm.
right? Like, it really
Some,
does feel that
yeah.
way.
Some people sadly use the court system to harass others. In terms of a lot of states, bar to show like, okay, their standard is for grandparents to get visitation to show that the parents are unfit. So in this case with Harry and Meghan, they're very public. So clearly they're fit to have children. So Thomas couldn't even say like, oh, they're unfit parents. Like, look at all these things they're doing. He doesn't really have a grounds. And that's mostly grandparent, if they actually have good intentions, they'll say like, oh, like this is my daughter, but unfortunately like my daughter is unwell, like she's unfit and like I would like to help, etc. But people are either they have good intentions or they have bad intentions in terms of these types of custodial and visitation rights. I would say
Mhm.
family law is the most heartbreaking but also like messy areas of the law because you're having to deal with like people's interpersonal connections. So
Yeah.
I have a few good friends that practice family law and I have no idea how they do it. Tech
It's
is
so
much
emotionally draining.
exactly, like, tech is much, like, more black and white, like, we're negotiating software deals, so it is what it is.
Exactly. And there was this one thing too that he said in the press. He said that he would continue to do these interviews until Meghan and Harry spoke with him. What is that at the end of the day? How can that be classified legally? Someone who almost black. I don't know if it's blackmailing, if it's
Well
something like threatening.
Well, he's within his right to speak his opinion, so he's
Yeah.
allowed to do that. He's technically not saying anything negative about them that's untrue. He's saying they won't let me see my grandchild. That's the truth. He's not defaming them, so he
Yeah.
can do it. So I think in terms of like his actions, it's more like the court of public opinion. Like, publicly, it just looks bad. It looks like he's harassing people.
Mhm.
However, it's up to them like whether or not they just want to get it over with. I don't personally think that people outside of parents are entitled to children. And even sometimes certain parents are not entitled, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, are not entitled to their children either, which certain parents are awful, which we're going to talk about tomorrow when we talk about like parents' rights and having your kids on the internet, etc. So
Mhm.
I think he just needs to let it go.
Wow.
But I think he thinks like, oh, this is the only thing that I can do. So he's going to, and he's probably also getting paid for these interviews. Let's be
Well, that was
honest.
my next question. Is he getting paid for this? Is this a motivator for him?
Some interviews are paid. So, for example, the Harry and Meghan Oprah interview, they said was unpaid. But certain interviews are paid. So I doubt he would own up to whether or not if it was paid because it would make him look worse, I think.
Exactly. Yes.
But like the
Now,
tabloids, they generally pay.
do they really?
Most of them pay.
Oh
Some
gosh.
people just like to talk for no reason because they just like want the attention, but most of them will offer money.
I love it. Now, moving on to a more serious topic. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the story. I think I mentioned it to you the other day. The Alex Baldwin gun
Yeah.
incident. Do you have any kind of background knowledge on anything that's going on?
It's so sad. I was actually my condolences to her family, to Halima's family. I was talking to my friend about it, who actually has worked in production, so showrunner's assistant in New Mexico, because I have never been on a set. So I was very curious, saddened, but also curious as to why there was an actual gun, a
Mhm.
firearm on set. I was under the impression that all the guns were fake, and that's what I was like. Oh, I thought they were all fake. Apparently, the standard is to make films look as real as possible. So most of the props, why they're indeed props, they are real. Most of those guns are real, and they've put blanks in them. It came out today because they filed the police report that unfortunately, I think the term is like the armorer. The armorer might not belong to the union, which is why you need to hire unionized people because they're cheaper. Someone from the set came out and said, oh, the production company, this is their fault. This is negligent. They hired cheaper labor. This is what happens. The armorer, unfortunately, is only 24 years old, which at 24 years old, like they most likely do not have the experience, which is
Mhm.
what the person alleged in their Facebook post. Like, hey, I've been working on sets all these years. I've never seen somebody that age have the experience. This is how mistakes happen. This is negligence. They were obviously upset. Like, this is their close friend that unfortunately died, um, which I think it's very sad to see, but I think definitely they are going to sue the production company because you should always hire unionized people, especially if you're going to deal with live firearms. And unfortunately, the armorer most likely will also be sued, which
The
I
20-something-year-old individual.
most likely,
Oh,
but most likely when people sue, they sue who has the most money. You have to sue the person with deep pockets. So
yes.
which is going to be the production company. Ultimately, the production company is the one that hired her. So that's who's really at fault. But also, like, this is her job,
Yeah.
which she didn't do. So I do think that sadly enough, there will likely be criminal charges for negligence, for manslaughter. Whether or not they go through with that, it will probably depend on Halima's husband, which is like very sad. And then also, unfortunately for Alec Baldwin, you have this on your conscience that you have now, unfortunately caused, even though accidentally, the murder of somebody. So I
See,
think it's
I
very,
could never imagine, even begin to imagine the shock and the pain that he and everybody who was there that day, is going through. Like, this is a freak accident like I've never heard of before.
well, so accident the thing, well, let me pull it up because I was reading it earlier, the
Yeah.
police report. Accident would be if this is the first time this happened on their set. According to the police report and according to someone else that worked on the set, a week prior they had a similar incident, but nobody was hurt. So this is why people on the set were saying, like, this is extreme negligence. This happened multiple times. The production company, we raised issues. Apparently that same day, according to the police report and according to people on set, people walked off. Their part of their crew walked off the set because they were upset and saying, like, hey, we voiced these concerns, you're not fixing it. And they
Yeah.
went on with the production. So the production company, from a face value, of course, they are going to have to answer to all these things and these allegations. They're all allegations at this point. But the production company, there are definitely a lot of questions that people should be asking. Why did you not have a unionized armorer? Why did you not have why was the union not running this? So for those of you who have context, the union, it does cost more to hire unionized labor. So like SAG-AFTRA is the largest union. So unionized actresses, actors, unionized any of the prop people, any of the heads of production, etc. It does cost more money. But the reason being is you're getting quality. If you hire somebody from the union, you know that they are also getting paid. SAG-AFTRA offers healthcare, which actresses and actors deserve healthcare. If you're
Yeah.
a non-union, you're not getting healthcare, which is why the cost is a bit higher. So sadly enough, a lot of production companies, they want to cut the corner. But like, you can't cut the corner with the props person that's handling actual guns.
Guns. Well,
That's not where you cut the corner. Maybe you want to cut the corner at the person who's like delivering the snacks, at the person who's like making sure everybody's happy. Like, okay, maybe you cut the corner there, but not the person handling dangerous props.
exactly. I believe, and I'm going to pull up this article to read live with you guys as well, but I could have sworn that I read either today or yesterday that the gun was not even the gun that he was supposed to have been using for that scene. Do you remember reading something like that as well?
I didn't read that. I was reading, hold on, in the LA Times. The LA Times had the updated one from, I think, today. Let me see. I'll pull it up for you. And that also had the eyewitness account from, I think this is it. Hold on one second.
No
So this
problem.
also has Russell and Sousa. I'm trying to remember the man's name that worked on set and then made like a lengthy statement in which he detailed all of it.
Mhm.
That's not this one. Let me find it.
The story is moving just so quickly.
Yeah,
It's,
which
you
is,
know,
I think unfortunately it's going to get much worse. Because usually when these types of things happen, again, it's, oh, we thought like we could just fix it, and people just keep going instead of like doing things correctly, sadly, sometimes.
yeah. Well, now you're saying also that there is a possibility of criminal charges being laid. So, who would face those criminal charges if they were laid? Would Alex himself kind of potentially face manslaughter or something like that?
I don't believe he would. And the reason why I'm saying that is, when to face charges, two things happened when you face charge. Either the victim says, like, hey, I went down to the police station and Grace assaulted me. Can you
Yeah.
believe it? That Grace assaulted me all the way from France. Or the DA's office will say, hey, I saw Stephanie get assaulted, so we are going to press the charges and we are going to force Stephanie to testify. Two things. I don't think, the way it sounds, that Halima's husband or her father, it seems that the father said, oh, it's not Alec's fault, but it is the production company's fault. And it seems that the husband and Alec are somewhat close. It
Mhm.
doesn't seem like they want to press charges against him. They do seem very attentive and aware, like, hey, the production company, something is wrong. So I do think there could be charges filed against the armorer, because essentially, like, this is their job.
Mhm.
You had this job. So, and in terms of, definitely it's not intentional. Definitely it seems like, oh, this is an accident, but that's negligence then. So, which is manslaughter.
Exactly.
If that's actually going to happen, that we'll see. There's no win-win for anybody. Unfortunately, someone has died. So,
And
and
if
another
there,
person was severely hurt. So,
if Alex himself, because honestly, this is a traumatic event for Alex as well. So, would he be able to potentially sue production and everybody who was supposed to make sure that this was safe for him? Because I imagine this is something that is going to haunt him for the rest of his life.
yeah, he definitely can. For so they have NIED and IIED, which is
Yeah.
negligent infliction of emotional distress, and then IIED is intentional infliction of emotional distress. So I would assume that he would probably sue under that, and I would assume negligence. I don't think anybody's saying that it's purposeful, which is that, hey, you were supposed to check these guns. You were supposed to make sure that they're not live. You're supposed to make sure that there's only blanks in them. You're supposed to make sure that the assistant producer or the assistant director that handed it to me had the correct one, etc. So I think he definitely could. If he's going to, I have no idea.
Mhm.
Um, I think more likely what we're definitely 99% going to see is the family suing the production company. I would definitely think that's going to happen.
And will this kind of set the precedent? Well, because first of all, it's not the first time
No,
that,
it's not.
there has been a death in shooting a show or a movie or anything like that. But could this be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Because while researching this story, I read online that blanks can still kill people anyway. So why are you
Correct.
using them?
Correct. And that was my question to my friend, because production in like firearms is new to me. I didn't have any concept of it. And she's been around in a live production. So my first automatic assumption was like, can't you edit that all in post? Which you can. And her response was, oh, people want it to look as real as possible because sometimes they mess up post. But at what point are you weighing like the cost benefit analysis? Nothing is ever worth somebody's life. So my thought would be, well, maybe people need to practice the editing then. Like, I don't understand why you would have
Yeah.
like a real gun that actually shoots ever. Like, what is the reason for that? People have accidentally killed themselves with like these prop guns. It's happened before. People have shot other people. It's happened before. Like, this is not the first time.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it definitely needs to be re-examined whether or not what is really the purpose of this, because it's not worth someone's life. It's a film.
Well, yeah. Like I genuinely do not understand. Like, and I still don't get it because like you said, like this stuff can be worked out in post. Like we've had like crazy special effects movies like Avatar, like this, that, like
Mhm.
our post-production game is amazing. Like surely we can get like the Matrix, like slow bullets and stuff. Like I really don't understand why, they feel like this needs to be done. So the fact
Exactly.
that everybody goes into work with blanks and stuff, knowing that they can end someone's life. Will that help in the defense of anybody involved in the situation who might be facing charges?
I don't believe so. I think it's going to come down to, were you or were you not negligent? Like, did you? So when you have a production, you're supposed to have protocol. So was there a protocol even in place? It seems like there's not. If like crews walking out and people are saying they complained and, oh no, blanks went off last week and this and that happened last week. It seems like either A, there's no protocol in place, or B, no one is following the protocol. Both are
Yes.
negligent.
Uh-huh.
Not having a protocol, a good DA could say, okay, so at this point is grossly negligent. Like, of course, if you have no protocol, awful things are going to happen.
Hmm.
So I think that that's going to have to be proven. What I find very interesting, and I feel like it kind of depends, is that whether or not they actually charge the armorer that was in charge of like, okay, this was my job and like I failed to do this. That's what's going to be, whether or not that person gets charged. A lawsuit, of course, will happen.
Hmm.
Criminal charges, the whole purpose of our legal justice system, which I don't really agree with, is it's supposed to be a deterrent. It's generally not a deterrent because most people don't think to do crime. Like, this is an accident. So is making an example of her actually going to deter people to be like, oh, I have to check this 5 times because then something bad will happen and also I'll go to jail? Maybe not. So what's the best way to move forward when something, unspeakable like this happens?
Hmm. Because you would think that like the best deterrent is the fact that someone's life can end here. Zoe's saying this is the best way to get away with murder. It will be hard to prove intent and production will have to settle the civil lawsuit. So is this something that they might need to look out for? Will they need to potentially wonder, did, anybody involved in this film have any kind of malicious.
Not
And by the way,
intentional.
thank you so much for the super chat, Zoe. Thank you. Uh, like, is this something that they might have to look into? Was this an innocent accident? Or, like Zoe said, is this one of those things where something more malicious was at play?
Yeah, I think any like decent DA and like a good, police department is going to have to look into all options. I would err on the side that I think it's an accident, but of
Mhm,
course, like the police department is definitely looking into that. Like, is the crew disgruntled?
mhm,
They're walking off the set. They were walking off the set because they said the conditions were unfair and they hadn't been paid. When people don't get paid, they tend to be angry. What does that lead to, etc.? I think, to be honest, it might be a bit of sideline noise in this case.
mhm,
But you never know. Like, unfortunately, certain people, given the means to do the wrong thing, will do the wrong thing.
mhm.
I personally think that this is like a gross accident of people not paying attention to what they're doing, which is awful.
And now, can you refresh my memory? You said a little bit earlier on in the stream that there was a walkout
Yes,
the same day that this incident even happened.
yes.
Um, and the walkout was over unsafe conditions. Was it in relation to the guns already? Like, so they were well aware of a gun issue?
Yes, apparently they were saying there was a gun issue the prior week and people complained and said like, "Hey, what is this? Like, you're not properly doing these things." And people complained with that, and it was that coupled with pay, I believe.
Hmm.
So a pay issue. So it does seem like people were disgruntled. It does seem at the very base level from looking at the original subpoena and the original police report that at the very basis level, like there's no protocol in place. Or if there is, everyone is ignoring it,
And
which
who
is,
was in? Sorry, who was responsible for protocol? Was it the armor or someone above the armor?
I would say, though, so the way I had my friend explain this to me, each department is in charge of following the protocol. So the production company would set the protocol. So the production company would say, like, "Hey, Stephanie, you're the armor. You need to check this 4 times." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm in charge of my department," which the 24-year-old was leading the entire department, according to other
Hmm.
people in the crew. That was her department. So it's her job to say, like, "Okay, there are 2 assistants under me. Like, hey, assistant, we're checking this 4 times. We're doing this thing." Or if there's nobody under her, then it was just her. I'm not sure the
Yeah.
size of her team. But yeah, so that's why the production company is definitely liable to a
Hmm.
certain extent, because did you have the protocol in place? Did you explain this to everybody? And again, why are you hiring somebody with very little experience versus hiring somebody 10, 20 years of experience dealing with guns on a set?
Hmm.
That's the main question that everyone has. Like,
Now we've got a really big comment here that covers us. Liz says, I doubt he has a case. The Supreme Court of the United States did away with, oh, this is about Thomas Markle earlier,
mhm.
grandparent rights in 1998, but California does recognize some grandparents' rights. In California, where they live, a grandparent cannot file for grandparent rights if the parents are still married to one another. The petitioning grandparent must also have a pre existing relationship with the grandchild, and Tom does not.
Exactly, which is what I was saying. Exactly, he has no relationship. He's arguing to have one, so he's gonna lose. Which is
Yeah,
why he can waste the filing fee if he wants to, but it's
but
literally
it's not going anywhere.
exactly. It's going nowhere. So it was very pointless.
Now, I've got this little screen grab that I want to share with all of you guys here about the walkout that you were talking about a little bit earlier, Stephanie.
Mhm.
So, the last time it was Alec Baldwin's stunt double who had accidentally fired 2 rounds that
Mhm.
were live.
Wow.
So this is like this is even worse than what I thought.
Yeah, that's yeah. Ay, ay, ay. And to be
Uh,
honest, this usually doesn't happen so many times. So they basically had a forewarning, like, okay, like, whoo, that was bad. Like, okay, we have to fix this. We should listen. And clearly the production company or whoever did
yeah,
not listen, which is what, when the lawsuit, her family is going to sue. When the family likely sues, they're going to bring this up. Like, okay, this shows that not only are you negligent, you are grossly negligent. You should have fixed it when you had this issue the first time and no one got
exactly.
hurt.
Because today is the 25th, and this I think it happened 9 days ago. It was on the 16th, yeah,
Mhm.
on October 16th. So it seems like maybe they didn't even stop production from for the day to have like a really like long conversation about what they need to do moving forward. It seems like this place was really pressed for a budget or a timeline or something
Mhm.
like that to the point where they didn't care.
Yep. That's what I was reading as well with I I'm so annoyed I can't remember the man's name, but one of the production crew that's broke out, that's basically what he said. He was like, "I feel like
Mhm.
you guys don't care, like, my dear friend died, and you did all this, what, to save $5?" Like, essentially is, like, what he was saying.
Yeah.
So
And now, will the movie still come out? Because in past instances, like for example, Bruce Lee's son, when he was killed on set, the film still did end up coming out. Like they still went ahead and filmed it and released it. Do you think that's going to happen in this case, or is it too high profile?
I don't believe so because I think they've suspended, filming. So it's not finished being filmed, even if they wanted to do that, which would be very crass, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not finished being filmed, so I don't think so. I think they'll probably suspend it indefinitely. Maybe, and also they would have to get Alec Baldwin to, like, get back on set to even do this, which
And
I
I see.
highly doubt that he is in the mental state to do that.
Mhm. I imagine him being incredibly traumatized, like anybody would be in this sort of a situation.
Exactly.
Now, you guys, thank you all so much for being here. Stephanie, do you have any other last closing thoughts on either the Markle situation or the Alec Baldwin situation?
No, but I finally found the article, so I'll share with you.
Oh, yes, please do. Let me exit by screen sharing here. Okay, you go ahead.
1 second. So let me see if so it's from, hold on. The gaffer publicly blamed the armorer for negligence and for the death of Halima, which for someone to come, Sergey Savatno, which hopefully I'm not saying that wrong. He was the chief electrician on staff. So
Uh-huh.
let me pull up what he said.
I'm surprised by how quickly people are making public statements about this, including
Yeah.
Alec, actually.
Hmm. So, okay, let me see if it'll let me, because I have it in, when you have like in Apple News. So let's see,
Oh, yeah, it's so hard to pull out
which
of Apple
one's
News.
like, you can't get out of it. Share, let's see if it'll let me share that. Share screen, Chrome tab. Okay. I don't think it'll let me pull up. I think this has it in here as well. So
Oh,
this
I
is,
see it.
it's from the LA Times, but this one, ET basically took the what he said.
Uh-huh.
So that's fine as long as it's here. So let me scroll in a little bit. Okay, can you see it?
I can, yes.
Okay, so I think the main part that's important from him, mind you, this is somebody who has, I believe, around 20 years of experience. I was working on set. Like, this is his good friend that unfortunately died. So he went on Facebook to say this. He was a chief electrician on set, and he
Mhm.
basically said, so let me see the part where he said, I'm calling out to the producers. So he basically blamed the producers, and then he went on, hold on, that they hired somebody unprofessional. Where is it here? Oh, here we go. Accusing the film's 24-year-old armorer and the producers of negligence and unprofessionalism. So it was what he essentially said.
Ouch.
I know. It's
Again, the
mhm.
armorer is a 24-year-old woman. And while I was reading the other article, the LA Times article, I read that she's in the business because her father was in the
I
business
was
for a
gonna,
really long time. So I
yeah.
can't imagine,
Which,
what it feels like.
yeah, which is unfortunate, but also is highlighting that nepotism,
Yeah.
causes issues. Like, I've having worked in entertainment, that's who gets promoted. That's who, like, other people get passed up. But like, you're not necessarily running the same checks. I'm sure there was somebody that was 20 years experience that they should have hired that costs more. They're like, oh,
Hmm.
well, we'll just give somebody else a chance. But you can't like be handing out jobs to people when they happen to be dangerous. You shouldn't be doing
Exactly.
it at all, to be honest. Nepotism is an awful thing. But
Yeah.
particularly like in this type of situation.
Exactly. Like you said, for something a little bit safer, like, handling the food or something like that.
Yeah, fine.
But
Get your foot in the door. I mean, whatever.
yeah,
But not an actual firearm.
no, my goodness. Now, you guys, thank you all so much for being here. And Stephanie, thank you so much for hopping on again.
Yeah.
Don't forget, she will be here again tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to talk about all those influencer kids, the reality kids, like the Teen Mom kids, the Kardashian kids, whether or not in the future they have legal grounds to sue their parents for basically birthing them into fame and never having any form of privacy. It's going to be a really good live. So please make sure to tune in. Thank you so much again to Zoe for all of your super chats today, and just the T for tuning in. Ramster, everybody, Shannon Van, thank you all so much. We'll see you again tomorrow, hopefully.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Let me put some nice intro outro music for you guys. Bye.